Welcome back to the F-16 build. In this video, I'm going to finally finish the plane, paint it, and get the electronics tested. Let me walk you through some of what's left to do. I'm going to work my way from the front to the back of the plane. First thing I'm going to do is install a 3D printed hinge for the canopy, reinforce the landing gear cutouts in the fuselage, print pylons for the wingtips, figure out a way to fasten the lower fuselage, cut access doors for the horizontal stabilizer servos, fix this back portion of the vertical fin, and then glue on the various 3D printed pieces. Let's get to work. finally done. After 4 years of working on this thing, the F-16 is officially complete. It's been an incredible amount of work. Every little detail on this plane just took so much time to work on. It's scary to think that it's taken 4 years to finish this thing, but it's finally done. It's looking great, and I'm super excited to fly it. So let's talk about 3 things. The first is the weight, the second is the CG, and the third is the tests that I'm going to be doing before the maiden flight. So for the weight, the final weight of the plane without the battery came out to be about 1,970 grams, which is about 200 grams more than this F-35 that I have. It's a 70 millimeter F-35, so it's a similar scale and about the same, similar wing area. It did come in about 300 grams heavier than my prediction. If you remember from a previous episode, I showed a spreadsheet where I did the weight and balance of the plane when I was designing it, and my estimates showed to be about 1,600 grams. But anyway, it's 200 grams heavier than this F-35, which is about a third of the weight of the battery pack. So I think the plane should still be flyable. It may just feel a little bit heavy, but we'll wait and see. All right, second, let's talk about the CG. It came out perfect. I don't have to add any ballast or any weight to the front or the back of the plane, which is awesome because my calculations worked out really well. Again, if you remember from my previous episode, where I had to choose where I was going to place the EDF because it's pretty heavy and it's pretty far back in the airplane. And I also had to place where the battery was going to be. And those 2 heavy components had a huge influence on where the overall CG would end up. And now that the plane is finished, I can't move the motor. So the only option I have is to move the battery forward and back. But I have a limited amount that I can do that. Fortunately, the battery is pretty centered in the battery compartment, and the CG is at where the calculations show. Okay, and the third thing are the tests that I'm going to be doing. First, I'm going to be doing a thrust test, and then I'm going to be doing a heat test of the ESC. If you remember from one of my previous episodes, I explained how I did not incorporate cheater vents into this plane. I wanted to only have a true functional inlet duct. So I'm going to remove this lower portion of the fuselage here, which will feed plenty of air into the EDF. So I'll do the thrust test first in that configuration. That way I know that there's no restrictions of air feeding the EDF. And then I'll run the thrust test again, but with this lower portion of the fuselage. That way I can compare the 2 values and see if the inlet duct is restricting any airflow. And then finally I'll do a ESC heat test. So I'll keep the lower portion of the fuselage on, and I'll run the plane for maybe about 2.5 or 3 minutes with varying throttle positions, and I'll see how hot the ESC gets after that. If it turns out that the ESC is at a reasonable temperature afterwards, that'll give me a good idea that there's not too many amps being drawn through the ESC, and that it's being cooled properly. All right, let's get testing. As you saw, there was a significant reduction in thrust with the lower fuselage in place. So unfortunately, that means I'm not able to avoid a cheater vent like I initially wanted to. Here's the cheater vent insert I designed and printed out of lightweight PLA. As you'll see in the next thrust test, the plane now produces nearly full thrust. That's going to wrap things up for this video. The next time you see this F-16, it's going to be up in the sky. Thanks for watching. Peace.